Hi, welcome to Finding the Word. It's Melanie Brown, and I'm pulling a really late night one today. It's like 1 in the morning, and I haven't done this in a long time. I'm usually getting up really early, but I was determined today. I had a lot of disruptions, but I'm like, nope, I'm not going to bed until I get this done. So bear with me, because it's been a while since this has happened. So the word is criticize. I was talking with my mom about times when you're feeling a critical spirit when someone may be speaking to you versus constructive criticism, where the goal is to be helpful and to benefit you. And with constructive criticism, you feel that build, you feel built up. You feel hope, you feel the ability to conquer things, to do things, to make changes, to do better, But with critical spirits, they come more with a condemnation. You feel torn down, kind of hopeless. It's got a different feel. It's coming from a different place, different motives, different position when they're coming to you, just criticizing everything that you're doing. Does not feel the same. As we were talking about it, it came to her memory a time that she really felt criticized. Not necessarily on purpose, but just really was feeling that criticism, and it was hard for her. You will tend to avoid people, not want to talk to them sometimes when you feel like that's what they come with when they speak to you. So I had thought we were going to do a word so long ago over the last year or so, and it just didn't really pan out to do one. So this was so special to have the opportunity to do a word with her today. So I'm going to go ahead and play part of that, and then I'll be back with the scripture in just a minute. Today, I get to have my mom on here with me. This is something I've wanted to do for a long time, and for us to have a word. And we talk about things all the time, and a lot of the words that I am discussing or words that I've had have come from conversations that we have or discussions about things, but just have not had an opportunity and hadn't necessarily even heard that there was a specific word. But we were talking the other day, and then I heard the Spirit finally again on a word where I knew this was something we needed to talk about, and that can be a blessing to assist and help somebody else in their walk. This conversation we were having was because there's times when people are supposed to be helping you. It can be constructive criticism that they're giving. But there's other times when it doesn't feel like so much of a constructive criticism, and you're not even sure where the place is coming from. It can be rooted, like we were talking about, in jealousy, and you're expecting them to be helpful. So you're looking for it to be helpful, but you can feel within you that it isn't. So then you were sharing with me where this reminded you about something that you had walked through many years ago when your first child, the oldest in the family, Russell, was a baby. So we're talking about 57 years ago, almost 60 years ago. And it put you to mind of this, which also says that this had to be very impactful in some way for it to come up in your memory like that and you to recall it. But I wanted you to share what had happened and where that criticism was coming from and what you had shared with me. And this is my mom, Miss Linda. I didn't really introduce you. I said this is my mom, Linda Mitchell. Yes, but go ahead, Mom, and say.
Hi, everyone. We were talking about the fact that we sometimes feel criticized by someone that we love or that we care about when it may or may not be unconstructive. It may be just the way we're taking it. And I was criticized at one point when I had my first child. That's the way I took it, because it happened repeatedly, and I just felt like, okay, here we go again. When the phone would ring, and that was back in the day when we didn't have caller ID, you would just answer the phone. And when I answered the phone and realized that it was her, I was just like, oh no, here we go. Expecting some criticism of some kind of criticism. I knew that it was going to be something about Russell, my child, and I knew that it was going to be something that she really couldn't control, but in my mind, that's where we were. And it would sometimes result in an argument because I was thinking, okay, I'm the mother. I'm trying to do the best I can, and you're telling me about things that I may or may not be doing, but you don't know.
Wow.
She lived in another city, and we were far apart, and so it's not like she could jump in her car and rush over to see if he had an undershirt on under his onesie. But that's how I felt. You know, I felt like she could just jump in her car. She didn't even have a car, and rush up to where I was.
She had a thing about wearing those
and
T-shirts.
I know she wanted that T-shirt and a bunch of other little things. But it was criticism to me, and I felt like, okay, I'm a new mother, and I need to focus on the things that I need to focus on with this child. And I was, you know, a very attentive mother, just, you know, concerned about everything. So I felt that I was criticizing myself enough, and I didn't need any additional criticism, and that's where I was when I thought about it. And so what happened was I went to my pastor at that time and had a conversation with him, and I was just so forlorn. I was overwhelmed by the whole situation, and I talked with him about it, and he said to me, Linda, now you do realize that you are a great distance from where your mother lives, and you need to just accept what she's saying to you, kind of in a, oh yes, everything's fine, yes, he's fine, and leave it at that, and then do what you're going to do. She's miles away,
Wow.
and you're going to do what you're going to do, and that's all there is to it. So instead of getting worked up about it, just pray about it, ask the Lord to give you the strength to you know, to endure it and deal with it, but do what you're going to do, and then you will find yourself not arguing anymore. Because there will be no reason to argue with her over that T-shirt,
over what she's saying to do.
What you're going to do. And that was one of those situations where it stayed with me for all these years. I can remember him telling me that.
You could probably remember how you felt picking up that phone. You could feel what that felt like. This is impactful. It was important to me because what I was really hearing is, for one, we have to be very careful our approach and how we're dealing with people. But we also have to be careful that we know where we sit and where we're getting our direction from on how to do things, and how we choose to take what someone else is saying to us and what they're doing. It really could be very critical, but there's a place where you then have to say that does not have to affect, like what he was telling you, this does not have to affect, even if she had been 2 miles away. It made it really kind of just like, okay, listen, she can't even come over anyway. She can't drive. She lives far away. But what about if she had? There's still a place that says you do not have the right to do it this way. You can't, you don't just need to be criticizing what I'm doing and controlling what I'm doing. And you still can stay firm and be okay with that and set those boundaries. It was harder to do back then. But I think that it is still difficult anyways when you're walking out your own life and doing things, but you've been accustomed to this person because you were a young mother. You had not been out of the house even very long. You know, because you got married, what, 19? I could see where that would be hard. And really wanting to just encourage anyone, because always encouragement I'm looking for and some way to help. There's so many of us and so many people who have areas that they feel criticized in their life. Someone else's perspective on how they see it isn't even accurate. This is where our relationship with the Lord is so important. I remember early on feeling a sense of criticism even for having children too close. When I went on to have 4 or 5, and I felt that the Lord was saying, this is what I want you to do. I want you to trust me with your children. O had always wanted a large family. I did not know that at first, but as I found that out, it wasn't a problem to me. And it was criticized, you know, because, oh, we're at this time, or, you know, but someone else maybe not having the faith to walk that out should not be able to affect how you're feeling. And I realized that when I was a younger mother, and not even that young, but I felt that. I felt it, you know, to where it was like, I'm not going to tell you that I'm having another baby. I'm not going to say anything about this because I don't want to hear the criticism of, why would you have another child? You need to do this and this and that. And then over time, now that was not my husband's testimony. That was not O. And O did not have a problem saying, this is what we're doing. This is my family and my wife. You need to watch how things are said. He does not have a problem with that. But this conversation is about the fact that we have to look at ourselves when it comes to how we react.
Right.
And what it really means when the person is being critical or not. If their criticism is helpful, take it apart a little bit, dissect it. If there's something useful, then great. Because not all the time when people are saying something and you feel criticized doesn't mean it's negative. You may just be needing to think about something. But you take what's useful, and if it is not useful at all, then you don't take any of it. It does not have to affect you. What God says, what he is pleased with, his direction is the only thing that we need to be concerned about, you know, and being pleasing to him.
And I think that was the point of the pastor's message. I think that's what he was trying to say to me. Just take it as a word that your mother is sharing with you, but don't take it as a criticism. And I think, you know, all these years later, these years later, I see it that way.
Most of the time, I don't know that people really would mean to be. There are times, I stand by that, and people are critical.
Some people are haters.
And they really are. Naturally, and anytime you hear from them, see them, they're probably going to be coming. And then you got to check whether you want to even have them involved in talking about anything with you. And we do have the ability to see who's calling now. So you can easily just say, not today, Satan. Not today. And keep it moving. You know, but it's just, it was good. And I felt like this was a really helpful thing to talk about for someone that is really sitting somewhere dreading things, or even, Lord have mercy, making decisions to do everything based on the fear of being criticized and making choices out of that. That's not where we make our choices from. And we have to be careful about how we deal with people and deal with criticism in our life. So criticize, actually in the New Living Translation, took me to Daniel. There's so many really good points, too, in this story. It is Daniel chapter 6. We're going to start with verse 1. Darius the Mede decided to divide the kingdom into 120 provinces. He appointed a high officer to rule over each. The king also chose Daniel and 2 others as administrators to supervise the high officers and protect the king's interests. Daniel soon proved himself more capable than all the other administrators and high officers. Because of Daniel's great ability, the king made plans to place him over the entire empire. This is a nice place to stop because he was the head and not the tail, above and not beneath. He was walking boldly and with authority, and he was more capable than everybody. So this was a favor of the Lord on him. And so he was in line by the king to be over the entire empire. Then the other administrators, the high officers, began searching for some fault in the way Daniel was handling government affairs, but they couldn't find anything to criticize or condemn. He was faithful, always responsible, and completely trustworthy. This is wonderful. This is just so good because he's following the Lord. He's a light. He's an example. And the Lord can really use him this way. His life was a testimony of God's faithfulness and goodness over you and how to walk it out right. And so because of this, there was no fault that they could find. What an example that's set for us in our jobs, in our positions. Also, though, take note that they were hating on him. They had a problem with him. They did not appreciate it. There was clearly jealousy, clearly frustration. He was outshining them, outworking them. He was in line to be over all of them, and they didn't appreciate it. They began to look for a way to pick with him, to look for something. How many people go through this? How many of us can be on jobs and in places where people don't appreciate the fact that you're the head and not the tail? They don't appreciate the fact that you're outshining them, that the attention is on you and what God is doing in your life, and that people are in awe of the things that he's doing. They marvel at it, that you're shining brightly. How many times are people wanting to dim your light? How many times are they looking and just not understanding? Why is it that she has all this favor? How is he able to produce these types of numbers? Or how is he able to handle all of this and still come in here smiling and happy? What's going on? What is the difference? There is a difference that they can see. They're wondering what in the world it is and how this is. But instead of rejoicing, instead of celebrating these good things about you, they're trying to find fault. They're trying to pick with something. But can we say, as they are saying of Daniel, that there is nothing to find? We need to be walking out our jobs and our lives in a way that there is nothing that can be criticized, nothing that they can use to condemn us. He was faithful. He was always responsible and completely trustworthy. We need to take a note here. So they concluded, our only chance of finding grounds for accusing Daniel will be in connection with the rules of his religion. And isn't that something? Still going on now too. So when there's nothing else that can be pointed out, then let's just point out the beliefs that they have. Let's go ahead and find fault here. If you are following the word, if you're reading the Bible and you're living accordingly, then people want to find fault with that. If there's nothing else they can say about you, then this is what they say. So the administrators and high officers went to the king and said, "Long live King Darius. We are all in agreement, we administrators, officials, high officers, advisors, and governors, that the king should make a law that will be strictly enforced. Give orders that for the next 30 days, any person who prays to anyone, divine or human, except to you, your majesty, will be thrown into the den of lions. And now, your majesty, issue and sign this law, so it cannot be changed, an official law of the Medes and Persians that cannot be revoked." So King Darius signed the law. Look how they came to him, pumping him up. You always have to be careful with people who are just full of flattery. All of these extra compliments and things. Sometimes you have to be careful about that because they're trying to get you in a prideful place. And you can be then tricked. This was a device of the enemy coming. He didn't even see it coming at all. He knew nothing of it. The way they were praising him, it lifted him up. "Oh, your majesty, we should all be worshiping you. Look how wonderful you are." He's up here just, and then signing things that he ends up regretting later. We already know we need to be careful with the prideful and the haughty spirit. These things come before a fall and before destruction. This is verse 10. But when Daniel learned that the law had been signed, he went home and he knelt down as usual. In his upstairs room with his windows open toward Jerusalem, he prayed 3 times a day, just as he had always done, giving thanks to his God. Then the officials went together to Daniel's house and found him praying and asking for God's help. We should not be moved. People can be upset all they want. They can come up with whatever rules and things. They can pick all they want and have stuff to say about what we can or cannot say at work, what we should or shouldn't be doing if we're bowing our heads to pray or pray with someone who needs prayer or whatever it is that we're doing. The position you're in should not come before the Lord. So if someone wants to come against you, there's a point where you have to just stand. You go on. He ignored them, clearly. He was like business as usual. So we have to take note of this too. Business as usual. You are not going to stop me from what God has told me to do. No matter how you feel about it, whatever rules and laws you come up with, whatever you choose to do to me, you have to go on and do it because this is what's going to happen. So this is what they were waiting for, clearly. This was the whole plan. And in verse 12, they went straight to the king and reminded him about his law. Did you not sign a law that for the next 30 days, any person who prays to anyone, divine or human, except to you, your majesty, will be thrown into the den of lions? Yes, the king replied. That decision stands. It is an official law of the Medes and Persians that cannot be revoked. And see, he's still sitting in his pride. Yes, they are to worship only me. But then they told the king, "Oh, that man Daniel, one of the captains from Judah, is ignoring you and your law, and he still prays to his God 3 times a day." Hearing this, the king was deeply troubled. And he tried to think of a way to save Daniel. He spent the rest of the day looking for a way to get Daniel out of this predicament. In the evening, the men went together to the king and said, "Your Majesty, you know that according to the law of the Medes and Persians, no law that the king signs can be changed." They really got him. It is interesting how he was deeply troubled, how it had not occurred to him that this was going to hurt Daniel. He was so busy thinking about how important it was that they worship only him that he did not think about Daniel and how this would affect him. So he had to give the orders. And the fact that he spent the rest of the day trying to figure out a way to get him out of it, he was so troubled by it. This is really showing us how important Daniel was, how meaningful Daniel was to him. So at last the king did give the orders for Daniel to be arrested and thrown into the den of lions. The king said to him, "May your God, whom you serve so faithfully, rescue you." A stone was brought, placed over the mouth of the den. The king sealed the stone with his own royal seal and seals of his nobles so that no one could rescue Daniel. Then the king returned to his palace and spent the night fasting. He refused his usual entertainment, and he couldn't sleep at all that night. Very early the next morning, the king got up and hurried out to that lion's den. Could you imagine? Oh, man. And he's like, how could I have done this? How could I have thrown him down there to these lions? He loved Daniel. Clearly, he loved Daniel and knew that this was a mistake that had been made. And I do want to point out that he said, "May your God, whom you serve so faithfully, rescue you." He didn't look at this as impossible. He didn't see this as no possible way. There are some things where you're just like, well, bye, I'm so sorry, that this happened. But he didn't say that. He was saying, may he protect you. May he rescue you. And so he had actually some hope there that this was possible. So when he got there, he called out in anguish. I know it was bright and early. And he called out, and he didn't just call out, he called out in anguish. "Daniel, servant of the living God, was your God, whom you serve so faithfully, able to rescue you from the lions?" And Daniel answered, "Long live the king. My God sent his angel to shut the lions' mouth so that they would not hurt me. For I have been found innocent in his sight. I have not wronged you, your majesty." The king was overjoyed and ordered that Daniel be lifted from the den. Not a scratch was found on him, for he had trusted in his God. We have to stop here and really look at this too. He was willing to stand for what was right. He did not waver. It was business as usual. He talked to the Lord and cried out to the Lord. The king even showed some hope that Daniel would be rescued. He knew that he was the living God. The king spent the night fasting. That is very fascinating. He was not interested in any of his usual things. All he could think about is whether or not Daniel was going to be all right in the morning. And then we know that the angels shut the lion's mouth. I heard a perspective on this that was really good, in that Daniel was not in the flesh, and that lions eat flesh, but that Daniel was in the spirit, and the spirit of the Lord, and they could not smell any flesh on Daniel. Then in verse 24, the king gave orders to arrest the men who had maliciously accused Daniel. He had thrown them into the lion's den along with their wives and children. The lions leaped on them and tore them apart before they even hit the floor of the den. This is really just saying they were starving. So it's not to be said that they left Daniel alone because they just weren't hungry. No, they were hungry. They were hungry because they were leaping up in the air grabbing these people when they threw them in. Verse 25, then King Darius sent this message to the people of every race and nation and language throughout the world. Peace and prosperity to you. I decree that everyone throughout my kingdom should tremble with fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God, and he will endure forever. His kingdom will never be destroyed, and his rule will never end. He rescues and saves his people. He performs miraculous signs and wonders in the heavens and on earth. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions. And it says that Daniel prospered during the reign of Darius and the reign of Cyrus the Persian. This is a wonderful and powerful word for us. This is so good for us to sit in and know we are going through all kinds of things. There can be all kinds of issues that are happening in our lives. And to be able to declare and to decree that we serve the living God. We are serving a living God that will endure forever. His kingdom will never be destroyed. His rule will never end. He rescues and saves his people. He performs miraculous signs and wonders, both in the heavens and earth. This is the same God that we are dealing with today, who shut those lions' mouths with his angels, who rescued Daniel. This is the same God. So as we are faithful, as we are responsible and fully trustworthy, as we are obedient to God, as we shine our light, as we are of service to him, then we know that he will stand with us, he will protect us, and he will do the same miraculous wonders. And we can count on that same power in our true living God that endures forever. There are so many times that we need these reminders when we're struggling along in different ways daily, and we can get discouraged. And then you read these stories of how faithful that God is. And then knowing that this is the same God that we're serving is really uplifting. It really helps us to get a perspective back, to carry on, to press on, and do not be weary in our well-doing. I'm going to go back and finish up the video with my mom. Thanks for coming on and talking about it with me. I appreciate that. I was so looking forward to this. And and for all your wisdom and conversations and talks, it's helpful. Most of the time, it's a part of the things that I am talking about and discussing. It's all of the wisdom from all of the years of conversations that have helped me to be at this point as a mom of 13, walking things out and dealing with all kinds of things. And for that, I'm very grateful and want to be able to say thank you to you for that.
And I hope I haven't been too critical of your parenting.
No. And you know what? And just before we go, that's a thing too. I feel like you've been a pretty distant person. I'm one that leans on, well, what do you think about this? And what do you think? And I need to be able to not do that too. That distance about most things pertaining to my life and how I do things and how is because of the overbearing way that you were dealt with. It caused you to say, I don't have any opinions about that.
Right.
Hey, you're doing fine. You know, and it was, you're like, it's out of my league. I have 3. This is not, you're doing great. and it's just that, you know, it's very hard to get opinion or a thought, and you're very encouraging. I would say I've always felt that it was always encouragement and just cheerleading, more so, and just the proud of you. And man, it's amazing the things that are going on, and that's all I've ever. So so no.
I am proud of you. So there you go.
All right. It's important for us to realize that even if we're being criticized, if we are feeling down about some things that have been said about us or someone's perspective, we have to look at what God has spoken and what he has said about us and what is truth, and stand in that. And then also not to be easily offended, not to walk in offense. We have to examine what's being said. Sometimes people don't have the best intent, but there could be some truth to what is being said. But in that case, then we need to listen to what the Spirit of God has to say. He leads us to all truths. But we need to check ourselves. We need to be listening to how we speak, listening to the feedback that we receive on how we talk to others. We are to be speaking life into one another. We are to be building one another up, edifying one another. That is it, and in love. And so if there's an issue, we just have to do better. We just have to do better. We have to evaluate and make sure that we are not being too prideful, that we can't make adjustments or changes despite what's being said. Walk in humility. We need to watch our tone. Make sure that we are speaking in love so that it can be received. Thanks again, Mom, for joining me today for the video, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to find the word, and I will see you soon.